for those young guys to want to get out, I mean, it's a reality that this team just does not want to even consider possible. I don't know if anybody saw what happened in the desert coming, especially after we all thought the Jets had just turned their season around. But here we are, New York 3-7, virtually eliminated from postseason contention before we even get to Thanksgiving. This is another issue of Jets Class, and we are so pumped to have you guys along for the ride. We're going to try to get to the bottom of what is going wrong with New York, or see if we can. I don't know if it's necessarily possible, but it starts right now with a takeoff where, yes, the Jets were absolutely a better team with Robert Saleh, and unfortunately, they're figuring that all out right now. I don't know if the Jets are destined for the playoffs had they kept Robert Saleh as head coach, but I do know that they would have been in a better position than they are right now, because that spark, that jolt that they were looking for when they moved on from him for Jeff Ulbrich, it just has not happened. And I think the biggest reason why is the unorthodox way that the Jets went in replacing Saleh. You know, they didn't go to a special teams coordinator like the Saints did, or a positional coach like so many other teams do. And the reason why the other teams do that is it keeps the operation intact. The offensive coordinator still focuses on the offense. Defensive coordinator still focuses on the defense. It doesn't rock the boat too much in terms of game preparation. Well, what the Jets did in promoting Ulbrich is they didn't alleviate any of his responsibilities as defensive coordinator. They simply added head coaching responsibilities to his plate. And now you've seen wholesale regression on that side of the ball. And I don't think that that is coincidence. You know, yeah, maybe Robert Saleh wasn't the best head coach in the world. Maybe he wasn't going to lead the Jets to a Super Bowl, but the operation was sound, and I think it was going to be even more sound because Robert Saleh planned on replacing Nathaniel Hackett, which would have given the offensive jolt. So unfortunately, I do think that this Jets season really did start getting derailed when they made that coaching move. It is time now for 4 Downs, and it is presented by Monmouth University. Explore further at monmouth.edu/amplified. This is one of my favorite segments of the show because it's fast, it's quick, it's 4 topics on the Jets, my thoughts on those topics, and it starts right now with First Down. Tyron Smith is going to walk into the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. He's going to be remembered as one of the best pass blocking tackles of all time, an absolutely dominant force when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. But that player is not the one protecting Aaron Rodgers' blind side right now, and it is absolutely time for the Jets to move on from him and give the job to Olu Fashanu for the rest of this year. Depending on what metric you want to look at, ESPN Stats and Information, Next Gen Stats, Pro Football Focus, Tyron Smith has allowed between 6 and 7 sacks this year. That is 1 or 2 off of his career high. He is not a force in the run game. He never really has been, but now he's also a liability in pass protection. It's not working at the moment. And maybe the neck injury that popped up against the Cardinals, maybe that is severe. Maybe that's something that's holding him back. Whatever it is, it's time to give the job to the rookie and let Smith begin his transition into the sunset. There is absolutely nothing that is more mind-boggling to me and alarming about the current state of this Jets team than the fact that twice over the last few weeks, we have had players, namely Aaron Rodgers, openly questioning the Jets' energy before games. We heard it after the Steelers game. We heard it after the Cardinals game. And we won't even get into the fact that the entire reason Ulbrich was named this team's head coach was to provide a spark. You know, you sometimes see energy issues with premier teams when they play not so premier teams, the cliche trap game, which is understandable because, you know, they know they're the better team. They know they're ultimately going to win, and they just don't have that fire to come out. That can't be the Jets. This is a team that started the year 2-6. They have their backs up against the wall. They have absolutely no margin for error. So for them to go into any game, knowing they are fighting for their postseason lives and come out flat, lack energy at any point in the game, offense, defense, special teams, it is unacceptable. That is a culture problem. That is a team problem. That is a coaching player. That is just an entire issue that spans so many different levels of this team. And truly might be the biggest reason they are where they are, and the biggest sign they've been drinking their own Kool-Aid and just assuming things were going to be handed to them instead of actually earning it. I think the Colts are a feisty group whose defense is a little bit better than people expect, who can run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. But more than anything else, like we were just talking about, the Jets have an energy issue before games. You know that crowd at MetLife Stadium is going to be testy, and the Jets, after this game against the Colts, have a bye week. I am legitimately concerned that there are going to be players on this team looking towards that bye for a system reset and looking past the Colts. And if they do that, the Colts are absolutely the team that can jump up and win this game at MetLife Stadium. And honestly, I think that's what's going to happen. It's been quite the week on social media for the Jets, namely Quincy Williams and Sauce Gardner. And look, the average American who's working a 9-to-5 job, or really any job in general, is never going to have to deal with what these players do anytime they grab their phones and check their mentions, see what they're tagged in, what people are saying about them. And I'm not just talking about, again, your average American having some no-name person come into their workforce and rip them apart for the job that they're doing on the field. These guys have to deal with violent remarks towards their family, violent remarks towards themselves. I mean, social media really is a cesspool when things are going negatively for a team, which is why these guys just need to get off social media for the next few weeks, because it's not going to get better, especially if the Jets lose to the Colts. It's just going to get worse. This is a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, fans that have not seen a playoff run in 13 going on 14 years now, that wanted this to be an escape of success, to forget about some of the stresses they're dealing with their day-to-day life, and they're just adding more stresses to it. So everyone is on edge. It doesn't excuse what people are saying to players. It doesn't excuse when players clap back at fans, but it really is just best if the players who know what's going to be there when they open their phones just don't open those networks for a while. Look, we're not going to sugarcoat this. Things are not going well for the Jets right now, so that is why we are going to open up the mailbag for a little therapy session and address your concerns on the state of their team, because we know there are a ton. Let's get right to it. This is the doomsday scenario for the Jets, because they've worked so hard to accumulate young talent they can build towards the future with. For those young guys to want to get out, I mean, it's a reality that this team just does not want to even consider possible. But the two guys that I would keep an eye on, it would be the two guys that you love their passion so much, but that passion coupled with consistent and incessant losing could force them to want to change the scenery, and that's Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. I mean, these are not two guys that after every single game, they're looking at it as just a job. They're skipping out of the locker room to go get a nice meal and dinner. No, these guys take every single loss personally. I mean, it truly demoralizes them whenever they lose football games. So yeah, I do have some worries about those losses piling up and piling up and piling up, and it just becoming too much emotionally for them to bear, that they say, you know what, I just want to change the scenery. But again, we're not there yet. It's a doomsday scenario, and honestly, if you're a Jet fan, you don't even really want to think about that. This one is a fascinating one, but I don't believe it comes into play until the Jets are completely, entirely, 100% eliminated from the playoffs mathematically. Remember, Aaron Rodgers last year wanted to come back off that Achilles injury and play as long as the Jets had a 0.0001% chance of making the postseason and making a run and making a Super Bowl push, and he was going to do that until they got blanked by the Dolphins in Miami. So again, as long as the Jets still have a chance this year, I think Rodgers is going to start. Once they are eliminated, though, does Rodgers start thinking about life after football? Does he think about next year if he wants to play? That's when I could see Tyrod Taylor getting in. Just not yet, with the Jets still having a 16% chance of making it. I think the Jets would absolutely love to have Aaron Rodgers back next year, even if it's with a new head coach and a new general manager. I mean, he's still a pretty good player in the NFL. He's not somebody that's easy to replace. And if they do end up drafting a quarterback, their future quarterback in the first round, I can't think of a better person to learn under than Aaron Rodgers for a year. But I think this will truly come down to what Aaron Rodgers wants. I mean, he has been physically beat to hell this season. Does he want to run it back next year? Also, this was the year where he brought in all of his friends with players, his personal handpicked offensive coordinator in Nathaniel Hackett. They did everything that he wanted, and it kind of blew up in his face. Does he want to learn potentially a brand new scheme? I don't think the Jets are going to involve him heavily in the head coaching search, especially when you only got maybe one more year with him. So again, I don't know if Rodgers wants to come back, but if the Jets could have him back, and if the Jets see a situation where they could bring him back, maybe because of his relationship with Christopher Johnson, I think that's something they absolutely should explore, and I think they will. Well, the Jets might not be having too much fun on the field, but we always have a great time here on Jets Class. Thank you guys so much for joining another episode. If you want to catch a previous episode off of a better time in Jets Slant, you can across SNY's digital platforms. That is Facebook, that is X, that is SNY.TV, and that is YouTube. You know what I'm about to say. If you're going to watch us on YouTube, subscribe to SNY's channel. Give those Jets Class videos a little like just so it helps spread us to other Jet fans. If you want more of me and the rest of the Jets pregame live crew, we are coming your way before the Jets take on the Colts, trying to save their season once again on Sunday. That's going to be Sunday at 12 o'clock on SNY. It is Jets pregame live, 12 o'clock SNY, before the Jets take on the Colts. We'll see you guys there.